people who know that, who are using that sort of knowledge, are belonging to the elite. So it's a tool of power. Let's say in these old 19th century Russian gymnasiums, high schools, you had very good classes of Latin. But nobody was using Latin as a language. Okay, it's good for general culture, I mean, you all know that, Rome, etc., but who cared about it? Officially it was important because it was one of the basic elements of the European culture, and you were transferring those pieces, those packets of the European culture, to the people, etc. But practically, it had a power meaning. So you have different sort of people, in a city like Tbilisi of the late 19th century. Some were upper middle class or elites or aristocrats who were attending those very good schools where they had Latin, and the others not. So it means the others were not attending schools where you had Latin, and therefore those who learned Latin were entering into a power elite, a cultural elite. So that was in the modern cultural theories and studies, we call that marker. Marker is a tool which is showing that you are belonging to a community. So those who were attending a good school, they had Latin, it means they are belonging to the society of good people. So culture was not a tool for themselves, culture was an instrument to show that we belong to the good people. Naturally, in the modern subcultures, you have all of that. I don't know, somebody is carrying a cap of a given format, it means she or he belongs to a subculture of a pop group or of a style or I don't know what. You have a punk of this type, a punk of other type, you know that. So practically we have all of that now, but it means that you are trying to build up via those markers, something what in the sociology we call exclusion. So we are creating a club, and we are creating a sign for those who belong to that club. It means if you don't have that sign, it means then you're not a member of the club. And if you're not a member of the club, you are somewhere down. You understand that? You have that in your life. We will discuss it in these days. So you have that not in Latin, you have it in everyday interactions. So practically, this is the exclusion-inclusion story. And then we have the authority, power, and hegemony. And naturally, the question is, how do cultures have resistance? For example, in the Soviet time, we had dissidents in all of these cultures, including Georgia. And the dissidents were creating their own very closed subculture, which was used for self-defense. By the way, those cultural styles which many theoreticians are calling according to the distinction of sectarian and what is the difference between a sect and a church? These are both religious something. Naturally now you have a political distinction according to the official church, all the others are sects. But I'm discussing that not in that manner. If you take the history of the Christianity in that sense, as an organizational discipline, the Christianity at the beginning, 3rd, 2nd century, was a sect. People were living in catacombs. They were persecuted by the Romans, as you know. People were living in the catacomba. They were having their small Christian churches in the catacomba, and it was very dangerous to be a Christian. You could be eaten up by lions in the circus and all sorts of persecutions like that. So you are not trying to publicize broadly that you are a Christian. it was like in the, maybe not you, but your parents were looking at the old Soviet movies about the partisans. So the Christians were the partisans. And if you are a partisan, you're not telling to the others that you belong to this unit. You are in a closed community. You have 25 other people and you are starting to search about the real boss. Who will be the boss from these 25 people, and who will be the sub-boss and the deputy boss, and who will be on the margin of the power. And you have cultural tools for that, but that's practically power. And practically in this situation of the sect, you're very careful with taking other people into that unit, because it's dangerous. But a church is open. A church is inviting people to come. A church is offering its sacred knowledge, its rituals to everybody. A sect is a closely organizing unit of a culturally homogeneous group. A church is a broad movement, if you want, of culturally very heterogeneous groups. All sorts of people can come to the church. The church is not interested in their individual lifestyle or in a very careful way. And it's not trying to build up subordination between the believers and between different groups of the believers. So it means culture, I mean, even I was showing that in this difference between the sectarian and church-oriented understanding of the sacred that has a power dimension. I don't know, I mean, do you have in your curriculum for the colleagues Foucault, or you're not passing? If not, okay, I was taking, I took a text of Foucault with me. So Foucault is a French sociologist who died maybe 10 years, I think in 94, so more than 10 years ago. And he was a major theoreticians, one of the major theoreticians of the 20th century European sociology, a Frenchman who was trying to build up that relationship between hegemony, power and culture. You will, I mean, if you're interested, if your colleagues are interested in, they will pass to you, I mean, those texts and we were speaking about. Okay, so if you are looking in another sense at the basic concepts, how cultural studies is created, you can look at taxonomies. Maybe you know that taxonomies, I mean those clusters from the modern social sciences are usually substitutions of theories. If we don't have a good theory, we were unable to develop a good theory, then we try to have a taxonomy. Taxonomy is just, I mean, showing which are the classes. So, like a catalog. So, okay, if you look at practically what we're doing now, I mean, with all sorts of understanding of culture and these different forms of social life, then we are trying to understand history. History not only in the past, but history now, and even in a strange way, history in the future. So history in that sense is the flow of events. And if it's the case, look at the keywords of those two approaches. You have two types of concepts here to be developed: culture and literacy. Literacy in Russian would be grammarnost. And you see that naturally related, I mean, this literacy related to the written word and to the relationships between the written words. And you see the different keywords which are in the culture, in the understanding of the culture, in the understanding of the literacy. In the understanding of the culture, if you are looking at the culture in this very broad sense, look at the keywords which are there. Look at the major concepts.